welcome to Hot Copy. Robert, what an honor it is for you to come to the show. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I love the Philippines.
You told me that you were first here in 1966. I wasn't even born, but why were you here?
I was a student on board a ship, and then I was back here in '72 fighting in Vietnam.
Okay. How did you first become an author? I mean, of course, when we were talking off cam, you said, nope, the truth is I'm really a businessman, right? And then eventually writing came into the picture. Tell us, how did it happen?
Well, I'm an entrepreneur, and I have multiple companies. And like I have oil companies, real estate companies, hotels, stuff like that. And so a lot of times people want to make me something, which I'm not. I'm just an entrepreneur. So an entrepreneur can own multiple companies. So one company I own publishes books, and I write for the book company. And I own the company, I write for it, I hire other people to write for me, they write their own books through me. So I'm an entrepreneur. So it's what I write my own books, though.
But what made you want to start sharing? I mean, about the secrets of making money. I mean, there are many entrepreneurs or businessmen who have no interest really. You're more famous for actually, of course, being an author. I mean, even if you're an entrepreneur.
Right.
What made you want to share it? What happened?
Well, the story of Rich Dad Poor Dad is a true story. You know, my real dad was a PhD, Stanford University, all that stuff, but they're poor. You know, most PhDs are poor. And he was head of education, and my rich dad was my best friend's father. He was an entrepreneur. So when I was 9 years old, I raised my hand in class, and I asked the teacher a question. I said, when am I going to learn about money? And the teacher says, we don't teach you about money in school. And I always thought that was a stupid answer. You know, I said, so why not? So I go home and ask my dad, the PhD, I said, why don't we teach you about money in school? He says, because money is not that important. But yet they tell you to get a job and work for money. So I said, you know how kids are. You ask these questions. He said, look, if money is not important, then why do I have a job? Oh, no, you have to have a job, but you don't need money. I'm going, wait a minute. So at 9 years old, that's when I started studying with my rich dad, who was my best friend's father.
Yes, of your best friend,
and
Mike.
He never went to school.
Oh, he never went to school.
And so he became one of the richest men in Hawaii. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad is a story of what a poor man, a school teacher, PhD, you know, PhD stands for poor, helpless, and desperate, tells their two sons, you know, the rich man, he says, if you want to be rich, be an entrepreneur. And so that's how it started. And the reason I write is because, as you know, today the U.S. and the world is in this global financial crisis. So back in 1983, which is what this book is about here, Second Chance, I started to see this global economic changes coming. And the problem is the United States is a kleptocracy now. It's a dishonest country. And that means,
dishonest country.
Right, because our rich rip off the poor and middle class.
Okay.
So that's why in America we have this gap between rich and poor and middle class. And so that's when I said, I've got to say something. And so in 1997, Rich Dad, Poor Dad was published.
Yeah.
And it's what the rich teach their kids about money that the poor and middle class do not. So I write about what the rich do. It's not what the poor and middle class do. And so that's what was difficult back in 1997, because I said, number one, rich don't work for money. That was the big secret.
Yeah.
Rich don't work for money. They don't want jobs.
What do the rich...
Hang on one
okay,
second.
go on.
Number two, the rich don't save money. And so when I started saying these things in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, everybody thought I was a quack and a lunatic. And number three is your house is not an asset. So if you look at the big middle class, even here in Manila, they want high-paying job, they want nice house, and nice Toyota. And that's why they're poor, because they don't know anything about money. And so that's why I wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and today the crisis is worse than ever before. And it's because the Federal Reserve Bank, Wall Street, and our Treasury is ripping off the world. So that's why I speak and I write, and I'm not very popular with many people.
Yeah. Now, you have many viewers and many fans, and many of us who have jobs. I mean, I'm one of them.
Right.
I work for a company. I mean, I'm not an entrepreneur. But take me through this journey of what makes you say the rich don't work for money. So what do you work for if you want to be rich?
Well, the reason you don't want a job is taxes.
Okay.
See, the rich don't pay tax because they don't have a job. No, that's true.
Okay.
And I just explain basic money to people. So on one side you have the rich, and you have this gap between the middle class and the poor. So number one, the rich don't have jobs, so they don't pay taxes. Secondarily, the rich don't save money because in 1971, President Nixon took the U.S. dollar off the gold standard. He violated an international agreement called the Bretton Woods Agreement. And today, America is printing and printing and printing. China is printing. Japan prints. Europe is printing. And so everybody working harder and harder and harder and saving money. Well, the governments are printing money. See, in 1970, I could put $1 million in the bank, and I got 15% interest. So $1 million, 1970, I get $150,000 a year income. So I could live, back in the day, you could live you could live on $150,000.
But today,
it's less than 10%. I mean, less than 1%.
1%.
So today, even if you're a millionaire in America today, you can't live on it because your income from your savings is so low. And every time they print money, the value of the money goes down.
So what do we do? Those watching right now, what should we do?
Well, you should buy my books, naturally.
Okay, that's one.
No,
that's one.
You have to.
So give me some secrets that are practical.
It starts with your education. It starts with words. See, your house is not an asset. Your house is a liability.
Really?
Yeah, your
I've
car.
always thought the car is the liability,
No,
the house is the asset.
No, and that's...
I mean, it's property.
No. That's why people are in trouble. The middle class is in very big trouble. And the gap gets bigger.
Okay, why? So the middle class ends up, going on a big loan for a house? Is that what you're saying? Tell me.
Well, if you like being middle class, it's good.
Yeah.
I don't want to be middle class.
So tell us. So, in other words, if you want to be wealthy, you shouldn't own a house?
No, I didn't say that.
So I'm curious. That's why I'm asking.
Well, please listen then.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm saying you better start studying. That's what I covered in Rich Dad. You don't have it here. Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
I said you have to understand a financial statement, income, expense, assets, and liabilities. The average person has no idea what a financial statement is.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, and that's
Well, I have a bit.
And that's what I teach people. I can teach
Yeah.
a little kid that in 10 minutes.
Okay.
But our schools don't teach it because the U.S. government dictates what schools are allowed to teach.
Okay.
So our educational system is controlled by the very people that control our monetary system and our banks and all this other stuff. So that's why when I raised my hand when I was 9 years old, I said, how come, when do we learn about money? The teacher says, we don't teach about money. That is not a mistake. It is part of what some people might call a conspiracy of the rich, which is one of my books.
Yeah.
It is not an accident we don't teach people about money, because that way we can steal your money. Not me, but the government can steal your money. And they steal your money, number one, via taxes. Okay. Number two, they tell you your house is an asset. The reason they want you to buy a house is so you get into debt, and you'll never pay that debt off. Number three, they tell you to save money, but they print money. Then they tell you to invest for the long term in the stock market. The stock market is at an all-time bubble. You know, when it crashed in 2007, the Dow, which is not the best indicator, but the Dow went from 14,000 to 9,000. So it went from 14,000. So what they did was they just printed more money. They propped it up now. Today's at 17,000. So today, the financial situation of the world is worse than it was in 2007. So now China's going down, Europe's going down, Brazil's going down, and we still tell our kids, get a job, work hard, save money, and invest in the stock market. And that's why the middle class is getting wiped out.
So what should we do?
Well, that's where financial education comes from. And that's why I wrote in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, what the rich teach their kids.
Yes. What do the rich teach their kids?
Well, number one, you have to learn how to invest. You don't turn your money over to a financial planner. I don't need a financial planner.
Oh, wow.
I mean, if you can't beat the S&P 500 or the Dow, you're not a good investor. Number two, you have to understand tax. Number three, you must understand debt. You see, debt makes the poor middle class poor, and it makes the rich rich. But it takes financial education. So I'm not saying do it. I'm just saying I use debt to get rich because that's what I was taught to do. My father was taught to use debt to buy a house and a car. That's why he's poor.
So,
So our
okay.
school system is corrupt.
Yes, all
Okay.
right. So you have that, you've established that. But in other words, if someone's watching you right now and he's, let's say he's employed, he's working, what would you tell that person watching? What should he or she do to actually start becoming rich?
Well, that's what my book, that's why I'm the #1 personal finance guy in the world today, is because I just tell people what the rich do. Now, a person should read my book. I also have games because I learned by playing Monopoly. You know, Rich Dad taught me playing Monopoly. That's it. You know, 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel. So today my wife has 10,000
Yes.
houses. I have 3 hotels. I have oil wells. I have businesses, okay? But when I was a little boy, I made the decision to be a rich man. Most people just want to be middle class. Unfortunately, due to the financial system of the United States and the world today, if you're middle class, you're falling behind.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah,
you know,
but what should an employed person do? That's what I mean. If they're listening to you right now.
they have to choose. That's why this book here,
Yeah.
this is my buddy Donald Trump. I know you
Okay.
probably don't like. A lot of people don't like my friend.
Go ahead. Okay.
But we wrote this book, Why We Want You to Be Rich. And the reason we want you to be rich is you only have 2 choices today, rich or poor. The middle class is going this way, poor. So the rich are getting richer. I'm getting richer. I'm very happy. But my family's getting poorer. It's sad because they're saving money. And they got,
So are
money
you-
in they got the money in the stock market.
But should we not save? Is that what you're telling us to?
No, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I'm
So
saying,
what are you saying? I mean,
I'm saying you better understand why your savings don't work anymore.
okay. So what would you advise them to do? Invest on their own and
No,
not save?
I'm saying you better understand the economic system. Right now, the governments of the world are printing money. China is dropping at high rates of speed. That means millions of people are going to lose their jobs here because they're not going to buy your exports anymore. It's the same as the United States, same as Brazil, same as Europe. This whole economy is collapsing
Yeah. You're giving.
because they print money.
Okay. Now you're giving me the situation, the analysis. I
Yes.
get the point. But I'm saying, what are you telling people to do?
You have
You're
to
the expert. You said it. You have to understand the market.
Yes.
You need to understand the
So
economy.
let me
But
show you.
what are you telling us?
Let me show you
I
this.
mean,
Let me show you this right here.
at some point, you have to be
Yes.
able to tell us to do something.
Buy my books, okay? If you don't want to buy my books, just keep doing what you're doing. But in this book here, I show you what happens when they print money. I use pictures.
Yes. Yes.
This is what happens to the value of your money.
Okay.
So a 10-year-old kid can look at this book and go, oh, I shouldn't save money.
So what should we do with the money?
Well, that's what the back part of this book goes into. I use debt.
Okay. So what should we do with the money? Are you
Let me tell
saying?
you,
Okay.
I am not a school teacher.
Yeah.
I think they should be fired, really.
Okay.
You know, because they're teaching bad information. It's obsolete.
Okay.
What they're teaching is obsolete. They're not bad people. But to save money is an obsolete idea today.
So okay, let's
Okay, so hear me
let's
out.
put it to you're the new teacher.
So let me hear this. So hear me out. This is what I did. I'm not recommending it. This
Yes.
is what I did.
What did you do?
So when I came back from Vietnam, 1973, my poor dad lost his job. PhD was fired.
Yes.
What did he tell me to do? Get my master's or get my PhD. That's how stupid that is. I'm going, Dad, you got fired. You know why he was fired? Because he's an honest man. He wouldn't play games with the governor of Hawaii.
Okay. Okay.
So my rich dad said to me, he says, you can go to university, get your MBA, or I can take a 3-day real estate course.
Okay.
So I took a 3-day I'm not recommending it. I took a
Yes,
3-day real
yes.
estate course, okay? Today, I own 10,000 properties, 3 hotels, golf courses, oil wells, and all that. So my education was the way I went. But they don't teach that in school.
Okay.
Also, I got a job with Xerox, not because I love Xerox copiers. I got a job with Xerox because as an entrepreneur, I've got to sell. Selling is the #1 skill of an entrepreneur. That's why my books are, I'm a best-selling author, and most people criticize me and say, you can't write. I said, yeah, but I sell a lot of books. So the mindset is completely different. So if you want to be an employee, just keep doing what you're doing, but the odds are you're going to get poorer today. That's what's happening. That's why if you understand your choices,
Yeah.
then you can make a decision.
So you don't encourage people to become employees, that's one.
No, I'm just saying, if you understand, the harder you work as an employee,
Yeah.
the more tax you're going to pay.
Yes.
And I'm just saying the rich don't pay taxes legally. And I explain how they do it. Now, you can sit there and you go, well, I don't want to do that. Well, then don't do what I do.
So do you advise people in your book not to pay taxes legally?
No, I didn't say that.
No, I'm asking you, coming from what you're asking. Look, what I'm asking you is right now.
I do not suggest people not pay taxes. I say you have to understand taxes.
Okay. So if you have to understand taxes, and first we haven't left the part of savings. So you said savings, you don't suggest savings to be a good idea.
Look, when you look at the central bank called the Federal Reserve,
Yes.
they're printing money. China's printing money.
I agree.
They're devaluing the yuan. Why would you save money?
Okay. So my question is, what should people do with the money they earn if savings is not your main advice?
You should invest it in your financial education.
Okay, that's a good one. That's one.
And you should learn how to sell.
Okay.
Okay, look at this little thing here right now, okay? This is a cell phone. Today I can live in Quiapo, Makati, any place. I can sell all over the world. Today my assistant, she makes about $100,000 a year on this. And she buys property through this.
Okay.
Okay? Because I taught her how to do that.
Yeah.
Now,
So
you can go get a job.
Yeah. No, you gave two good tips. So with your savings,
Not
get
tips. I'm just saying there's so many.
advice.
No, look, there's a million ways you can make $1 million.
Okay.
You got to find the way that works best for you, that suits your conscience.
Yeah.
I love real estate. I love owning big buildings. I love golf courses. I love hotels. I went to school to study oil, so I own oil wells. I study a lot.
Yes.
I hated school, though. But I study things that make me rich. And most people study things to get a job. There's a very big difference.
Yes, yes. Okay, I get that. That's a good one. All right.